So welcome. I'm glad, Rachel, you could get here from work, your important work, taking care of people. So this is the second full day of our Sesshin, and we're mostly settled into the routine, such as it is. You may or may not have experienced a deepening of your concentration, but nevertheless, you're here. You chose to be here, and because of your faith in the teachings, faith in the teacher, hopefully, and in your own life, faith in your own life. And because of your inkling of the direct experience of the possibility for you to really be awake and live in a way that is true and not distorted, and to be of benefit to others. Faith in the subtle taste of Zen that wafts through the present moment whenever the heart mind is undistracted. We've all had a taste. And this taste is the basis of faith. We have faith in our tradition. Faith is about our experience rather than in some idea. Any minute experience of this taste of the present moment, unalloyed, is the morning star. When the Buddha looked up and saw the morning star and awoke. This is the same as when we have an inkling that we then come back to again and again and again to explore and to open, so it becomes our life, our full life. Other people share, and this was true for myself as well, that they sat Zazen once, and even though mostly their mind was really scattered and jumping all over the place, there was a moment. There was a moment, and that's all it takes. Just a moment, a taste of possibility. Most of you have been practicing a while, so you've probably quite had that taste. So faith is based in our own experience of clarity, however limited, and the feeling of freedom that comes with that. And then the sincerity of aspiration that follows. We really know sincerely for ourselves that this is a possibility. Everyone from the beginning is endowed with clear wisdom and with the purity of the heavenly eye. But whether he, she, they opens this eye or not depends on the sincerity of her, his, their aspiration. So says Tori Zenji, with a nod to the current need for pronoun sensitivity. So as the power of concentration develops, our faith mind is awakened and strengthened, and our motivation is refreshed. It's much harder the first day of Sesshin than it is the second or third or fourth day, because we have returned to a certain degree of concentrated effort. There's a wholeheartedness and a lack of cynicism among Zen practitioners that emanates from faith mind. We have faith in the truth of the Dharma, the truth of the teachings, as we directly experience it. We're in touch with the possibility of wholeness, the very experience itself of being whole, all whole, and also part of the whole. So all of the whole of ourselves is our sense of oneness with all things. And that comes about in all kinds of ways, and big and small, like something that happened today for me. I tasted the first taste of a Cara orange. I don't know if you're familiar with that kind of orange, but it is quite juicy and sweet. And everything fell away. It was just knocked my socks off, knocked my mind out. That is wholeness. All things come forward together. Every moment is complete. And this is the truth of our individual lives. We are part of a whole, and we are whole. The consequence of awakening to wholeness frees up our energy as individuals. One of the things that's so clear about Sesshin is that no matter how it's going, how you think it's going at any moment, it does release a lot of energy. And often it's kind of challenging to sleep, to get to sleep, because there's so much energy coursing through the system. This is very much true when we're all day engaged in meditation. I don't know if you're having that effect or that experience with a workaday sesshin, but last night I was bright and awake. And I thought, oh yeah, this is the sesshin feeling. This is all of this energy is being released. And you may have noticed that with a modicum of concentration as you sit zazen, apparently doing nothing at all, there's an organizing of internal energies happening all on its own. That begins, these energies begin to line up and run in one direction, directly, all together in this moment of simply being a person, a body sitting, breathing, holding steady as awareness combs through the tangles of all the roof brain chatter and the thick karmic fibers of our old stories. There's so much going on when we sit in a concentrated way that we don't have to do anything about. All we need to do is follow the sense of faith in the method. Follow the sense of faith in the mind to unfold. The mind of awakening is self-revealing and clear. So the challenge, as we sit there, devoted to just this, the challenge is not to scatter our psychic energies. And the psychic energies include all of the energy that's mobilized in the thinking mind, and usually gets quite detained by the thinking mind, captured. But when we persist with determination and stay with just this momentary concentrated presence, opening in present moment awareness, and no longer invest in every fleeting thought or sensation or impulse or emotion, then the energy doesn't scatter the way it ordinarily does. And this is the source of great integrating power. It is this power that we know as faith mind. All faith is taking us in one direction. The energy of faith motors the awakening. Subtly, steadily, and aligning all that we do in the direction of realizing the true nature of mind and how it functions. There's nowhere the Tathagata's wisdom does not reach, is a line in Tori Zenji's teaching. And he says, what is the faculty of faith? And he says it means faith in the inherence of the faculty of mind and the immeasurable knowledge of all Buddhas. Immeasurable knowledge, that's a really important thing to contemplate. Immeasurable. It's not of the nature of being able to be measured. Faith that those who cultivate it will realize it. Those who cultivate mind and awakening to mind will realize it, regardless of the magnitude of their potential, he says, or the degree of their intelligence. Chosen Roshi often said, the Dharma is reliable. This practice is reliable. We just need to do it, to commit to it. So then Tori Zenji continues, there's nowhere this wisdom of the nature of reality does not reach. Of course. Of course, there's no way that it does not reach. What then makes the difference between Buddha and sentient beings? He asks. In other words, what's the difference between those whose faith mind has awakened and knows that they're on the path, and those for whom it hasn't? I often have thought of, it's so interesting how, for me, it didn't take much for me to turn really fast in the direction of Dharma. Other people live around Dharma their whole lives and never actually get caught by it. It's so interesting how that happens. What's the difference? And he asked the question and then he answers it. So I'm going to read you his answer to, or what he says about that. Beginning with, the wisdom of the Tathagata is called the genuine or true wisdom, or prajna. There's nowhere this wisdom does not reach. It penetrates in form the whole universe. This is meant by all sentient beings are endowed with Buddha nature. All living beings are equally equipped with this wisdom of the Tathagata. What then makes the difference between Buddha and sentient beings? Their vain fancies, erroneous views, and sticky attachments. Vain fancies are thoughts that lead astray. Erroneous views are four in kind. We have four kinds of erroneous views: of permanence, of joy, of I, capital I, and of purity. The erroneous view of permanence is mistaking impermanent for permanent. The erroneous view of joy is mistaking suffering for joy. That's interesting, isn't it? You know, it kind of compares what we think we need for happiness, you know, like fame and glory and wealth and beauty and youth and status, all that, as happiness. But he's referring here to that mistaken notion that is not the source of happiness, and that's not the source of joy, because what is based in conditions will change, and then there's suffering that follows. The erroneous view of I, to mistake I for no I. So to think that the mind, the awake mind, is gathered around a little small self. It's not what it's referring to. It's not what it's referring to. And the mistake of purity, to mistake impurity for purity. It's interesting he should say that, and it really marks him as referring to kind of the concern in Indian culture for purity and danger. But what I think he's talking about is anything that is marked by conditions is impure, and anything that is free of condition, the unconditioned, the unborn, is pure. So he's really talking about once the Dharma eye is open, you can really discern. You can discern what is ordinary and leads to suffering, and what is dharmic and releases us from suffering. Every ordinary human being has these four erroneous views, and we do too. All of us, we're all ordinary human beings. And because of them arise sticky attachments. Because of vain fancies, erroneous views veer to the opposite, thus obscuring Buddha nature. And so the true nature cannot be seen into. Accordingly, when the cloud of vain fancies is let go, the clear moon of the Buddha nature appears in all its original fullness and brilliance. The bright light of great wisdom, the Buddha wisdom, the natural wisdom, the wisdom of non-obstruction becomes apparent. When the cloud of vain fancies is let go. So that's really what we avail ourselves of through sitting zazen. We're immediately taking the posture of everything let go. We're putting this body, which is going to be dissolving anyway at some point, in an upright, supported posture, and the mind opens. And we can taste the true moment that is not sticky. We let go of everything that sticks to us. We recognize the nature of everything that sticks to us. He's again reminding us that this is a long, unwinding process. Unwinding in ever more keen awareness, how we have been identified with mistaken understandings. I like to say we suffer from a case of mistaken identity. We are all thoroughly identified with the individual self, which we have. That's our instrument for life as a human being. But it's not the only situation. We're not limited to this. Tori Zenji points out that we begin to clarify what distinguishes the mind of Buddha from the many ways that we can misunderstand the nature of liberated mind. What liberation is and what it is not. What liberation is and how we are liberated, and the route to liberation. The route to liberation leads right through this present breath, this moment, and right here. We are not substituting one descriptive system, one language for another, but freeing ourselves from the confines of all language and conceptual discrimination by understanding its nature, the nature of it. This, he says in his Bodhisattva vow, to see into this mysterious radiance frees us from all entanglements. The Heart Sutra ends with the exclamation, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisvaha, which translates going, going, going beyond, always going beyond, always becoming Buddha. We're always in process. This is living. Life is process. It expresses awakening to Buddha mind as an unfolding process, or as Dogen Zenji calls it, practice enlightenment, moment by moment unfolding process rather than steady state. Mind is not a perch. Direct experience is always leaping beyond. We can see that in Zazen. always, all at once, continually. And sometimes we realize it and sometimes we don't. I was at a continuing education seminar this week, and they were teaching a method of meditation, which was based on finding your perch. And I had to chuckle. Because actually, we don't seek a perch. We usually are fairly deeply perched. But in a certain way, presence is a perch, isn't it? When we're present, there is a point from which we are viewing everything. Well, at a certain point in Zazen, that point from which we view everything is let go of. Let's go of us. So coming back now to how does faith function? Torre lays out an answer to this question in a parable, which I'll read to you. Once there was a man who had clear wisdom and its unobstructed function, the heavenly eye. He saw that the sutra was contained in a speck of dust, but thus contained was of little use to sentient beings. Pondering this, he decided, with the strength of my devotion, I will crack open this particle of dust and extract the sutra so that it may benefit all sentient beings. Devising skillful means to do so, he split the mote of dust, extracted the sutra, and made it available for the benefit of all sentient beings. That parable comes from the Flower Garland Sutra, which again, I'm just recommending. It's just so amazing. It's hugely long, but filled with all kinds of good stuff. Hold on just a sec. I'm thinking I might just go on and read you something else from there. That's terrific. So this is a quote from the sutra. It says, "The knowledge of those who arrive at reality reaches everywhere." And you know, we often hear that about Buddhas. Buddhas have a complete knowledge of everything, right? Well, how do we understand that particular claim? This talks about how we understand that. The knowledge of those who arrive at reality reaches everywhere. Why? And because there is not a single thing but has knowledge of those who arrive at reality. It's just that they cannot actually realize it because of the delusions and fixations of false ideas. If they were detached from false ideas, all knowledge, spontaneous knowledge, and unhindered knowledge would come to the fore. It is as if there were a scripture the size of the universe, recording everything in the universe, completely contained in an atom. And as in one atom, so in all atoms. Now there is someone with clear and accurate insight who has fully developed pure clairvoyance and sees this scripture inside atoms, where it is of no benefit to people, and reflects, I should make the effort to break open the atoms, one and all, to release this scripture and enable all people everywhere to gain benefit from it. The knowledge of those who arrive at reality is also like this, infinite, pervasive, with the potential to benefit people everywhere. That's just so, I find that such a compelling image. It's dreamlike, isn't it? And because it's not that we know everything, it's not like we're encyclopedic, but when you know the nature of one thing, you know the nature of reality. That's really what it's getting at. When you see the nature of your own thoughts, it generalizes automatically to everything else. Impermanence is obvious. Interdependence is obvious. And that just infuses the entire heart mind as as we are affected by everything in the world, recognizing how precious it is, how delicate it is. And it's transformative. So this is the motor of faith mind. This is the importance of faith mind, is that we may not fully have awakened yet, but we are aware that we could be that open to true reality. And once we are, we can see much more clearly and beneficially. So one particle of dust means one instant of thought in the human mind, seeing into the nature of one thought, of one sensation, of one perception. It runs through all of reality. And it no longer leaves us marooned on an island of opinion, because opinions are also, we have opinions. I have lots of opinions, and they're right, but they are of the same nature as everything else. So getting caught in our opinion and aversions and reactions, losing touch with faith mind, we've wandered from the open path. The man in this parable had clear wisdom, and he could see the nature of one thought, but those around him couldn't see clearly. So devising skillful means, and that's all we're left with, is being of benefit, taking care. We all have to be as skillful as we can to adhere to the situation as it actually is, and uphold our vow to refrain from doing any harm, in order to engage life skillfully and in ways that are of benefit, that are in alignment with the true nature of things. We do this in all sorts of ways, directly and indirectly. If you're paying attention in a workaday sesshin, one of the things we can really appreciate is kind of the infinite actions that make up a day, and the potential that we can bring to everything that we do when we are awake, fully awake to it. Staying present and attending skillfully to the great variety that makes up our life and that needs responses. Our tasks, our relationships, our intentions. So this is the unfolding of faith mind. It's the doorway, the faith doorway. We can come into the whole description of reality from through a lot of different doors. And we've been taking up a bit of the faith mind door this evening. So thank you for listening. I hope there's something in this that is useful.